Hi buddies! Welcome back to Emergency Pineapple Studios. Today we're talking about Pokemon and Pokemon who I believe have the wrong types, Sinnoh Version. If you've already seen the videos before this, you know how this goes. I go through the list of Pokedex order and point out which Pokemon I think have been incorrectly typed. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Starting off this list is Empoleon. I actually think that the other two starters for Sinnoh were very well typed, with Torterra being Grass Ground and Infernape being Fire Fighting. And I will say this right now, I do like Empoleon's Steel typing, but it's a penguin. Shouldn't it be a Water Ice type? I will say though that Water Steel is significantly better than Water Ice. I just don't understand why it's a Water Steel type as opposed to being a Water Ice type. I mean, it's an Emperor Penguin. Shouldn't it be an ice? Penguins live on ice? That just makes sense to me. Next up is Staraptor. Up through this point, most of the early route birds were normal flying types, and that made sense for a long time, but it didn't really make sense for Staraptor. When Staraptor evolved from Staravia into Staraptor, it actually learns the move Close Combat, which means that it learns a very powerful fighting type move. Based on that and a lot of its Pokedex entries, I think that Staraptor would have made for a better flying fighting type as opposed to flying normal. Next up we have Luxio and Luxray. I will say this though, that Shinx by itself needs to stay a pure electric type. However, once it evolves into Luxio and then again into Luxray, that should stop being the case, because I genuinely think that these two cats deserve to be electric dark type. The main reason I have for this is both on their design and the fact that they learn a lot of dark type moves and make a lot of use out of them. If they were dark types, they would get stabbed for the dark attack moves, plus they would be really good at, problem setting, like things like Fling, Dark Pulse, Bite, and Crunch. This would make them more viable than just being pure electric type. Their main issue as a pure electric type is that they're not fast enough or bulky enough to actually, make use of that type combination. However, if they had the dark type, they could have double stab for two different things. Granted, it comes with some more weaknesses, but it means that their coverage moves are now actually stab moves. We move on now to the Buizel line, and to be honest, my only issue with them is the fact that they are pure water. The two types I think they could be are either Water Dark or Water Ice. Water Dark because they're supposed to be sea weasels. Sea weasels? Otters? They're a weasel or an otter, I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be. But they also learn Bite and Crunch by level up, therefore I think they could make better use out of it with the fact that, being a dark type. However, I also think that Water Ice fits simply because they are known to rescue people using their, inflatable raft. So, I just don't want them to be a pure water. I don't care if they're Water Dark or Water Ice, just not pure water. Next we get the Cherrim, and specifically I want to talk about its Sunny Day form, getting the Fire type. The whole gimmick of this Pokemon is that it changes forms when the sunlight is out, going from being this shy, introverted cherry into quite literally a cherry blossom. I think in the cherry blossom form, it would make for an excellent fire grass type. That way it would be a little more unique than just, a dex filler pure grass type. If you already watched my Johto video, you'll know that I thought that Mischievous should have gotten the fairy type when the fairy type was introduced, and this actually continues on to Miss Magius. Miss Magius? I think I go with Miss Magius personally, but regardless, the whole premise of these things is that they're based on witches. Witches use magic, fairy is the de facto magic type, therefore I think that Miss Magius would have worked as a ghost fairy type. And if you want more proof of this, we have Fluttermane. Now we get on to Spiritomb, and Spiritomb's kind of in an interesting situation. So, Spiritomb's description talks about how it's a ghost trapped in a rock, essentially, or I guess it's a collection of ghosts, but essentially, it's a spirit in a rock. Therefore, Ghost Rock is what I think would make the most sense. But, I will say this now, when Spiritomb came out, it was a gimmick Pokemon being the Ghost Dark type. Ghost Dark, back when Gen 4 came out, did not have a weakness. Now, since the Fairy type's introduction, it now has a weakness, but the whole point of Spiritomb originally was that it wasn't weak to anything. This made Spiritomb actually fairly interesting because of this Ghost Dark typing, and the fact that it was so unique, and it actually worked for, covering all the bases, that it makes sense as a Ghost Dark type as well. I do think, though, in my personal opinion, that Ghost Rock makes more sense. Now we move on to Carnivine, and I'm going to be very quick about this. Carnivine should have been a Dark type. Carnivine is quite literally a Venus flytrap that bites everything. It's known for its malicious way of, attracting prey and then just devouring it with its giant teeth and mouth. Essentially, this thing genuinely just should have been a dark type. There's no excuse for it to be just a pure grass type. Now we are at Luminion. I'm gonna be honest, I really do not care about this fish. But I did find it strange that it never got the fairy type when the fairy type was introduced. I don't think it would have made this Pokemon any better, I just think it really should have gotten it. So, that's just my opinion. We're gonna make a huge jump in the Pokedex, go all the way down to Yen Mega, and I'm gonna be very quick about this. It's in prehistoric Dragonfly. This thing should have been a Bug Dragon type. Now granted, it learns a Rock type move in order to become Yen Mega, but I think the fact that it is a Dragonfly was a missed pun opportunity, and on top of that was just a missed typing opportunity. I think that Yen Mega would have been much better as a Dragon Bug type, especially with its speed boost ability. If they wanted to make sure that it could still not be hurt by ground types, instead of having speed boost, you could have the option for it to have levitate. So that way it is basically a flying type as well. But I think there was a missed opportunity with making Yen Mega Bug Dragon. We're jumping to Dusknoir, and I'm going to be very quick about this. It kidnaps children, it sucks souls out, it basically drags people down to the underworld. This is Hypno-level evil. Dusknoir should have been a Ghost Dark type. You cannot change my mind about this. Make it happen. If you watched the first set of videos, you already know that this is coming, but if not, I'm going to explain this right now. The Porygon line should have been Psychic Electric type. That extends to Porygon Z. I am so annoyed that these things exist, and the fact that they are considered normal types does not make sense to me. They are quite literally programs. They are highly trained AI programs. Literally electric, psychic. One of the two, or in fact, make it both. Just, please, do not tell me that this stupid rubber duck is a normal type ever. To finish this off, I'm going to talk about a 2-for-1 deal, that being Magmortar and Electivire, but mostly because the fact that they are actually kind of like rivals to each other. When Magmar and Electabuzz were introduced back in Gen 1, they were introduced as a trio alongside Jinx. And all three of them could be found where a legendary bird could be found. Electabuzz could be found in the power plant where Zapdos is, Magmar can be found on Mount Ember or in the Pokemon League where you find Moltres, and Jinx you could find where Articuno was, and they all shared a type with the birds. The issue I had though was that Jinx had 2 types, whereas Electabuzz and Magmar only had 1. I didn't think this was rather fair, so I thought for a long time that Electabuzz and Magmar should have gotten dual typed. However, when they evolve into Electivire and Magmortar, they also were still single typed, and I still think that they should be dual typed. I think that Electivire should be electric fighting type because of the amount of fighting type moves that it learns, and it kind of resembles like a boxer monster kind of deal. So I genuinely think that being electric fighting makes sense for Electivire. Magmortar, on the other hand, I think should have been Fire Dark. The reason I think this is that Magmortars are apparently known to be very cruel, and they like to, crispy up their prey, but also just to kind of give it some more special attack base form. And I think the fact that if Electivire was a fighting type and Magmortar was a dark type, it kind of returns into a trio alongside Jinx being a psychic type. Psychic is good against fighting, fighting is good against dark, dark is good against psychic. Genuinely, I don't see this ever being fixed or changed in any form of regional variant, but I still think this was a really missed opportunity, and honestly, it just makes a lot of sense in my mind. And those are all the Pokemon who I think have the wrong types in the Sinnoh region. If you agree or disagree with me on any of my decisions, please leave them in the comments below. Also, make sure to like and subscribe so that way we can get this all the way to 100 subscribers. That's the goal for by the end of the year. And thank you all for watching. See you next time.